So this is a serious video, right? Because we're talking about real life issues, and I don't want to be playing like goddamn snake or something in the corner, right? So I'll be talking to the camera, okay? And so I'm making this video because recently I've been seeing a lot of Instagram stories about like if you don't repost this, if you don't actively stand up against like the injustice happening in America right now, against like the Trump administration, ICE, whatever, right? Alligator Alcatraz, all that stuff, right? Then I will soft block you, right? And to some extent, I can see the benefits and the cons, right? So let's start with the benefits, okay? I think it is important to stand up for what you believe in, right? I think if you say you're a liberal and you say you hate Trump, but you don't do anything about it, you just like keep that to yourself, right? I get it. Like people hate to be loud, and the idea of people have, like liberals that they're loud and obnoxious. I get it, right? But if you don't say anything, right, then I mean, ultimately, um, you're part of the problem, right? Like I think we all should stand up and say something about the injustices we see in the world, right? So to that extent, I understand that issue, right? I get it, right? Um, Now, my problem lies in two things, right? One, you're sacrificing human relationships for political reasons, right? Like I think regardless of whether you think that these political things happening in today's America are worse than or so these political situations are more important than your friendships, right? If you believe that, then sure, right? Then sacrifice all your friends. But I just think it's a sad situation we live in, right? The most important thing in the world, right? Human connections, right? The thing that we live for, right? The thing that we're born with and that we hope to die with, right? The fact that those are so meaningless that you can sacrifice them over a political issue. Or, on the other hand, it's also a sad reflection of American politics that people feel the need to sacrifice their friends to push their point or their agenda or whatever you want to call it, right? So there's that. Okay, to some extent, I think it's really sad, and I I guess I don't want. It's hard to say. I don't like. American politics will always be hard. Okay, that's the reality of the situation. But I think an ideal world is one where people can just people enjoy other people, right? Because I think people hate each other so much, and there's so much vitriol, and it's so polarized. Like, do you see what I mean? That's number one. Number two is I think posting some shit on your Instagram story is ultimately pointless. Not because activism is pointless, not because protest is pointless, because you're posting to your friends, right? And who are your friends? People that not 99% of the time, people that also agree with your political opinions, right? I'm one of the exceptions that I have friends that I would say I'm like in the center, right? Like very, very firmly in the center, and that's not because I don't understand politics. I understand politics very well. I just think both sides are so stupid, and I like both. I like things from both sides, right? And I know a lot of people like won't be friends with people if they're Trump supporters or if they're communists or whatever, right? If they're Democrats or Republicans or whatever, right? And well, it's obviously your like choice to make, right? And it's your prerogative, and like you feel free to do that, right? It's your life. I just think it's really sad, right? That we as Americans are so divided that we can't even enjoy each other's companies anymore without talking about politics, or without yeah, right, with letting these opinions get in the way of being friends. Because really, like ultimately, what politics boils down to is its philosophy and its like real world society, right? What's your philosophy for government, right? That's what politics is, and your philosophy for government is heavily influenced by your personal philosophy, right? Like if you're religious, then you'll obviously want um, what do you call it? You obviously want things that cater to religious people, right? And so on and so forth. So there's that. But anyways, the third point I was gonna make is I feel like it's really okay. Like again, I'm gonna rephrase that. I do think that protest is important, right? Like I think, again, I'm not like this might come off as me defending Trump. I don't like what he's doing, right? But I think I don't blame people for liking him, okay? And I mean, to some extent, like I live in New York City, right? So I'm gonna get shot saying this, but like I can see where you're coming from, okay? Because I think 90% of American voters really the only thing that they really care about is the economy, okay? You can't ask somebody to care about ICE raids because to some white dude in the Midwest, like this concept of sympathy for illegal immigrants is so alien, it's so abstract, it's so like non-relevant to his life, right? And you have to respect that, right? Because you're not voting for people in big cities, or you like a president isn't for the people in big cities. The president is for the people of America, right? And the fact of the matter is that a lot of people in America just don't care, right? The economy is the most important thing, okay? And I believe so too. I think, I don't care if you fucking, okay, I don't want to say this, but you can have atrocious social policies, right? But if the economy is thriving, then I think you will be remembered in history as one of the better presidents, right? I just think that's because the economy and a good economy impacts so many people, right? Think about how many Americans there are, right? And think about how many illegal immigrants there are, okay? Donald Trump being an asshole and sending like ICE to fucking do whatever, right? He's he's affecting like a really small group of people, right? And I'm not saying these small groups of people don't matter. Everyone matters equally, right? And that's the important part. It's the fact that the economy affects every single American, um, bar like the bajillionaires, right? And ICE raids only affect so many, right? I'm not saying this diminished the importance of like standing up against Trump's protests, right? I do think that what he's doing is bad. Okay, like we shouldn't be witch hunting immigrants when the real problem is not immigrants. It's that we can't compete on the in the global economy, not as well as we did 20 years ago, right? Or not 20 years ago, but like maybe a decade ago, right? And like America's had a not so great economy for a while now, right? But like it's important one to realize that this is not a Trump thing. It's an American thing, right? America will always have these problems because this is just this. It's just what is inherent to America's nature. We border countries that are not so and not as wealthy as us, right? And if I was in one of those countries, I'd want to come to America too, right? And like by any means necessary, right? So I understand it, right? And I think like there's so many downsides to being a legal immigrant. The fact that people do it anyways shows that they're desperate enough and they want it enough, right? And I think like there's a reason for that, right? And I think these people clearly like being this risk is like a risk worth taking, right? And that's the reality, right? But at the same time, like I don't really blame some guy from the Midwest for not caring about this abstract, um, like ethical uh, issue, right? Like about immigration or like climate change, right? Like climate change is very important, okay? Because if we don't address it soon, we're all cooked, right? And we're still on trajectory, right? I mean, electric vehicles, sure, whatever, but it's not looking great, right? But like at the same time, I don't really blame someone for uh like voting for the economy over voting for climate change reform, right? Because I mean the two are polar opposites. Climate change reform does mean less production, right? Less GDP, and like that. And if only America does that, then we're just a less prosperous country, right? I don't blame someone for not wanting to understand this abstract, like this super abstract scientific issue when when they're struggling to put food on the tables, right? Like if you're, let's say you're a hillbilly in the Appalachians, right, and like in West Virginia or some shit, and you can't even fucking get electricity, right? Do I blame you for not caring about climate change or illegal immigration or like LGBT rights? No, right? Because you can't put food on the table, right? And so I sympathize with that, right? As much as I sympathize with an illegal immigrant, as much as I sympathize with LGBTQ people, and as much as I sympathize with like minorities in America, I am a minority, right? I'm Asian, like 8% of Americans are Asian, right? So I get it, okay? I get it. I get where both sides are coming from. So I think the whole point of this video was to just say, like, why radicalize us further, right? Because we have to realize that we're not each other's enemies, okay? You're a fellow American, I'm a fellow American. We're both American, right? I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, fucking alien. You can be a Martian, right? As long as you're American and I'm American, we're we're fighting the same battle, right? We're on the same team, okay? This isn't uh like I get it, right? Like you absolutely despise the guts of people of the opposite party, right? But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, and if we get into a global conflict, which is looking decently likely, right? At least in the next 4 years, when push comes to shove, we're both American, right? And we're in the same boat. We all want what's best for the country. It's just we have different opinions on what that is, right? And and people, Republicans mainly, might think that a more Christian, a more yeah, more Christian America would be preferable, right? Like cut all the trans shit, um, and like fuck them, right? And I don't agree with that, but I see where you're coming from, right? And I think it's dumb. Yeah, it can be dumb, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the same boat, right? And I don't hate you because you disagree with me, because a lot of people disagree with me, right? These videos on my personal philosophy, a lot of people will disagree on, right? And that's more of a direct attack on me than my politics, right? So, but I don't hate you, right? If you disagree with me, I get where you're coming from, right? Everyone has different lived experiences, and we grow up believing and experiencing different things, right? And so the way we think is different, right? And um, and obviously we want we want equity, not even social. We just want equity for everybody, right? It doesn't matter if you're gay, black, a woman, whatever, right? You deserve the same shot in life as everybody else, right? Um, but and that's not the America we live in, right? Marginalized groups are marginalized and discriminated against, right? That's the reality situation, and that there's no debating that, right? But the fact of the matter is that the one thing that affects every single American, regardless if you're red, blue, or fucking black, right? It, I didn't mean like that. Like you know what I'm talking about, right? Like the political parties. Um, the one thing that affects us all is the economy, right? And I get it. If you're voting for the economy, I understand it, right? I don't blame you for not caring about these complex, very morally ambiguous ethical issues. Because immigration is a very, very morally complex and difficult thing, right? Because if it was an easy problem, we would have solved it already, right? That's the reality, right? And I don't really blame you for not wanting to care about this when you're struggling to put food on the table, right? And I think the reality situation is for a lot of Americans that is the reality, right? So yeah, I mean, sorry, what the hell? So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, right? Because I've been seeing people like self blocking people, and like I have friends with different politics than mine. Like I'm like if I were to have voted for Trump or Kamala, I don't know, man. I probably would have voted Kamala because I think neither had a good economic plan. Like tariffs are a coin flip, and the stock market has been absolutely fried, right? Um, and Kamala had better social, like I don't want to call it reform, but like policies, right? So I would probably vote Kamala. I live in New York City, so like ultimately, uh, would I have changed the outcome of the election? No, right? But there's that, right? But I have friends who are Trump supporters, and I know like a lot of people don't, right? But like I get it, right? And I don't hate you because you think differently from me, right? And I think it's healthy to have people around you to challenge you on your beliefs, right? Because like especially with stuff like this on Instagram, if you block all the people that disagree with you politically, then you just surround yourself with an echo chamber, right? And I think the most dangerous thing of all is this echo chamber, right? Because liberal policies are good until they go to the extremes, right? Just like there are some conservative policies that I agree with that are that that are become really bad when gone to the extremes, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I mean, I'm like this is from the perspective of like I'm 17, right? So I'm like young. I'm like right in the midst of like this political, like polarization or like this ripping apart of people, and I get it, right? I get it. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I just think it's dumb, and you shouldn't block somebody. And if your friend like posts that shit on their Instagram, then they're probably an idiot anyways. You probably don't want to be friends with them, okay? So yeah, there's that. That's my 2 cents. Good night, guys. Subscribe. And we'll talk about something less sad tomorrow, right?